Welcome back, Rotary Nerds. Today's edition, we're going to be going through on just getting some more prep set up for Sickweek in February. We're about 5 weeks out, probably when this video lands, 5-6 weeks out. We're going to be doing the cold air intake box for our turbo, as well as our air inlet. So we have our welder buddy, Josh, who was on Race Week 1.0 with us last year when we went to Great Bend, Colorado, and Kearney, Nebraska, and all that jazz. So today is just some modifications. We'll go through some of the consumables. I've been getting in a lot of different stuff for like oil, how we're going to resolve our issue for our antifreeze, making the drive from Minnesota all the way down to Florida. We're going to be hitting some cold temperatures. So with that, we're going to want to take the water, actual distilled water, out of the coolant system, fill it with actual antifreeze. So we'll be getting that, and then we'll have to drain that once we get to Florida, put water back in, and vice versa when we leave. So a lot of little things that we got to kind of prepare for and prep as we get closer. Also, we're switching around the intercooler lines for our water box, for our liquid to air intercooler. A couple of things too that people were asking me is on the engine setup. I've gotten a couple of messages saying, what kind of engine do you have in your car? Is it REW? Is it a 20B? Is it a 13B? Not really. Many people understand what is in the car itself. So we'll go over that as well. So let's check out just some of the modifications that we're going. As we're going through those modifications, we'll talk about the engine setup. So let's check it out. So as we get to our modification here, so normally where the headlight is, we're going to have the headlight removed when we're going to make a pass. And what I've done is I've kind of cut away all of this area. This used to be all filled in with basically the front core support framing. And one day I would like to just cut the whole front end of the car off. They make actually some pretty cool tube front end kits. Not going to have time to do it before we go to Florida, but I think that that's going to be the next step of evolution for this car. Just kind of going a little bit simpler, more space, area for everything to be. I think would look pretty cool. But for right now, we're just going to make an air inlet box right here. Kind of like a cold air box, just so that you can't get any like wheel debris and stuff like that with a inlet coming off the turbo. Just so it's not pulling hot air off of the radiator when the fans turn on. Because I do run with a hood when I'm drag racing. But as you can see with the turbo, I do run a precision turbo, pretty large frame T4. It's a 8385 precision Gen 2 turbo, liquid to air intercooler. With that, we have the alternator mounted on top. The reason why it's mounted on top with this kind of goofy little bracket that I have off here that I made custom for just to hold the alternator is with having a side mount. Love to do that, but that's where our actual mechanical fuel pump is, the Fast Tech Racing fuel pump. And you can see here, this is a Turbo 2 89 to 91 block. It is still cast iron. There is no billet in this engine. So stock rotating assembly, stock block. It's been lightened and or not lightened, it's just been balanced and clearance, sorry, at Balance Whiz. Leo Tavares handles that for me. But the motor's just a Bridgeport, no extra pins, anything like that. Solid dowels, double pins. It's nothing crazy ridiculous. It's what I can do in the shop. I don't have any machine tools, just basically hand tools and my skills. That's about all I got. So the motor does make well over 800 to the tire, probably 1,000 to the crank, and that's just a 2-rotor 13B. With that, we run a TKO 600 transmission. I do have a hand brake, staging brake for that, but the TKO transmission, that's face-plated, 2nd, 3rd, 4th gear, TKO 600. Liberty gears, all like their metal treatment, stuff like that. Oh, I did, actually, let's just check this out. So I did switch around my water lines as well. So now I have the water coming out the side. I did have the actual feed was on the front, and was on the front, all the G-forces would push that water back and it would actually not pick it up. So running it this way, and this is how it was in the front of the car when I had it up there, running it this way, I shouldn't have any more water spitting out the, or not spitting out, but not being able to siphon off. So that was my big issue that I was having, where my intake temps would go from like 70 degrees at the start of a run, and then they'd skyrocket up to like 170 degrees, almost to where the failsafe for engine protection would kick in at 200 degree air intake temp, which I had that happen a couple times, but that was all my fault. And then in the back of the car, we just have a Ford 8.8 independent rear suspension. It's a Ronin kit for the back with 430 gears. So pretty straight setup. ECU is actually a Heltec Elite 2500 ECU. I do run an M&W Drag 4R ignition CDI box with M&W coils. So, and then with that, on the street driving, I just have it grounded out to the battery so that it doesn't overheat. It just basically reduces the current going to the coil, so it's not running at full juice. But yeah, so we got it up on jacks right now. We are going to be putting in my new air box that Josh welded up for me. Just kind of basically took some plates and had him just kind of weld it all up the way that I had it designed there. And then my air inlet tube, all fancy with that, a little 5-inch guy. And then I have some heat shielding that I'm going to be putting on the exhaust, so that's the section that runs next to the transmission. I'll be putting some heat shielding on that guy so that I don't make the transmission boil for the fluids while we're on the street drive. So yeah, let's get some of this stuff installed here and let you guys check it out. All right, so pretty straightforward and easy setup with this guy. Obviously the headlight comes out. I'm gonna mount this guy in there, throw some screws on this guy, hardware. Pretty straight, easy, simple setup. The one thing I wanted to have it just easy, quick on and off for when I'm getting, at the track. Won't have to have a whole bunch of, stuff going on while you're just trying to make a pass. So just as fast as you possibly can make this, and change everything from taking the headlight out to putting this guy in. Simple as possible. And I will say, it does look pretty good in the car. So super happy with how it turned out. All the gaps, everything looks really nice. So yeah, that is my new air box that I have, just to kind of make it so that I'm not pulling in anything besides, ramming air into the turbo. So that's pretty nice. Then we'll get the air inlet on. Turns out I needed both my hands to be able to get this inlet on for the turbo, but man, did that look really nice. Love how the cut edge there, just a little bit of an angle, adds so much to it. So that is the nice cold air box setup. Oh, and I had to get some new V-band clamps. I would call V-band clamps when you're taking them on and off. Those are consumables when you're doing a race week. So just note, if you have any V-band clamps that you use on your car, I'd expect you to have extras. Make sure you bring some spares, because you strip those suckers out, you need to get new ones. Also, don't use lock nuts. Use regular nuts. You can take them on and off and not strip them out. Had that happen to me a couple times. But yeah, so even with the hood down, this guy looks really nice. I mean, pretty quick, easy setup. Be able to have that on and off, and then you just basically put the headlight back in when you're driving on the street, and take the headlight out when we go to the track. So as we go into just some of the stuff we're bringing with us, so we got our coolant that we're going to be putting in the engine. Just some what is this stuff? This is our Zyrtec for Asian vehicles. Just throw that guy some Valvoline in the car. Also, when we get back down there and we put distilled water, we'll put our wetter water in there. Like this stuff, it just helps for keeping cooler temperatures. They say to only use like, a little bit of a portion. I just put the whole bottle in. I'm sure everybody else does that buys it. Competition race plugs, so I use 11.5 race plugs, NGKs. These ain't cheap, so basically what I always do is I'll have a set of plugs in the car. So once I actually start the car when it's cold, it'll just be a set of junk plugs. I'll warm the motor up, get everything nice and hot, and then literally swap out into the race plugs right before I actually go to make a pass. And then once I'm done racing, I switch back to crappy plugs to do the street driving, just because if you're running regular pump gas or E85 from a pump, no sense on putting, you know, these plugs are, you know, 35 bucks a piece. No sense on putting good plugs in there just because you're going to burn them up. Otherwise, we use VR, just straight 50 weight oil in our Tremec TKO 600. And then for the engine, I got 3 5-quart VR1 2050 high zinc for the engine. I'll put in some fresh oil before we go there, and then I'll have enough for 2 more oil changes for when we're at the track and stuff. So yeah, really glad that you guys were able to join me on this video as we prepare for Sick Week. I mean, after Christmas, next weekend, we only have, you know, the following week, New Year's, and legitimately 4 weeks after that, we're going to be driving down to Florida, getting ready to put on a show for you guys. So we're in it for the adventure. Hopefully you guys are too. If you haven't yet, please like, subscribe, comment on the video, share the videos with your friends, support IED Racing, your boy, Rotary Boy from Minnesota, and yeah, see you nerds later.